In the heart of a continent shrouded in darkness, a storm was gathering. By 1944, the shadow of the swastika stretched across Europe, a sprawling empire built on conquest and fear. From the snow-capped peaks of Norway to the sun-baked shores of Greece, a brutal regime held millions in its grip. On glowing military maps in London and Washington, the red lines of control painted a stark picture of a world on the brink. Yet, in the quiet corners of a defiant island, hope was not lost. It was being forged in mud and rain. Across the rain-soaked fields of the English countryside, a secret army took shape. Far from the public eye, allied soldiers trained relentlessly for a mission that would define the century. They drilled in the mud, their silhouettes stark against the canvas of tents lit by the dim, flickering glow of lanterns. Trucks rumbled through makeshift camps, their engines a low growl in the damp air. This was the crucible, where men from different nations were molded into a single, unified force. Their faces etched with a quiet determination as they studied invasion maps under the faint light. The weight of the world was on their shoulders, and they were preparing to carry it across the channel. In the tense, smoke-filled war rooms of the Supreme Headquarters, the architects of liberation hunched over maps and charts. Here, strategy was born from whispers and shadows, silhouettes of giants Eisenhower, Montgomery. Bradley moved against the projected glow of intelligence reports, their minds raised, orchestrating the most complex military operation in history, Operation Overlord, close-ups on compasses, their needles trembling with unseen energy, and on intricate blueprints revealed the sheer scale of their ambition. They weren't just planning an invasion, they were designing a miracle, rotating 3D schematics of the Mulberry Harbors and ingenious floating ports, materialized in the smoky darkness, a testament to the incredible innovation fueled by necessity. Every detail was scrutinized, every contingency debated, the fate of millions hung on the decisions made in these dimly lit rooms across the water. The enemy was waiting, stretching for thousands of miles was the Atlantic Wall, Hitler's fortress against invasion. Field Marshal Erwin Rommel, the desert fox, paced the coastline. His gaze as sharp and unforgiving as the steel hedgehogs dotting the beaches. Under a strong coastal wind that whipped sand into stinging clouds, he inspected his defenses, formidable concrete bunkers, vast minefields, and cruel tangles of barbed wire. He knew an attack was coming. He could feel it in the salty air, in the tension of his troops. But where and when? He pushed his men, reinforcing the defenses, certain that the first hours of the invasion would decide the war. He called it the longest day, and he was determined to make it the last for any who dared to land. Back in England, the great build-up had reached its crescendo. An armada of unimaginable scale, over 5,000 ships, filled the misty ports, their gray hulls a forest of steel. They ranged from mighty battleships to humble landing craft, all poised for the signal. On airfields stretching as far as the eye could see, 12,000 aircraft stood ready, their engines silent but pregnant with power. Dynamic aerial shots captured a nation transformed into a massive military base. As the rain began to fall, soldiers, their faces hidden by helmets and weather, boarded the landing craft. The steel hull slammed against the stormy waves, a rhythmic, metallic heartbeat counting down to destiny. The atmospheric tension was a physical presence, thick and suffocating. In a quiet, decisive moment, a silhouette of Eisenhower looked at the grim weather reports and spoke the words that would unleash the storm. Okay, let's go. Night fell. The invasion began not on the beaches, but from the sky. Inside the vibrating fuselages of C-47 transport planes, paratroopers sat in the eerie red glow of the cabin lights, their faces a mixture of fear, resolve. Then, the green light flashed. In a slow-motion ballet of bravery, they jumped into the blackness, disappearing into the fog and the unknown. Point-of-view shots captured the terrifying descent, falling through a disorienting world of mist and cloud. Below, the night erupted with streaks of tracer fire reaching up for them like angry fingers. Elsewhere, silent gliders carrying elite troops crashed into the marshes and fields of Normandy, their splintering with the only sound in the moonlit mist. On the ground, the Pathfinders navigated the labyrinth of ancient hedgerows and dark farmhouses, phantoms moving through shadow and fog, tasked with securing the way for the main force. As the first hint of dawn broke the horizon, the sea itself roared to life. A colossal naval bombardment began, the bright, graceful arcs of artillery fire cutting through the smoky morning air. The coastline, just moments before shrouded in quiet darkness, was lit by the fury of huge explosions. This was the thunder before the lightning. Racing toward the shore were the landing craft, bucking violently in the heavy surf. Their targets, 5 beaches codenamed Utah, Omaha, Gold, Juneau, and Sword. The ramps dropped into chaos. Silhouettes of men ran forward under a hail of fire, the sand around them erupting in geysers of death. Engineers, the unsung heroes of the assault, worked desperately to clear mines and obstacles while under constant attack. Through the dust and fog, infantry clawed their way up the bluffs, fighting for every inch of sand. On Gold, Juneau, and Sword, British and Canadian troops battled their way through trenches and into the rubble of ruined coastal towns, the sky a grim canvas of gray clouds and drifting ash. In the German command bunkers, the dim greenish light of radios cast an unreal glow. The air crackled with confused messages and delayed reports. Was this the main invasion or a diversion? In his distant headquarters, Hitler dismissed the landings, convinced the real attack would come at Calais. Rommel, the one commander who truly understood the threat, was absent hundreds of miles away in Germany for his wife's birthday. The critical hours were slipping away, lost in a fog of indecision and arrogance. The chain of command was paralyzed, giving the Allies the one thing they needed most: time. That precious time was seized. A unified beachhead was established. The miracle harbors, the mulberries, were towed across the channel and the lifeline of the invasion began to flow. Tanks rumbled off landing craft and into the churning waves, their massive treads finding purchase on French soil. The Allied lines began their slow, brutal advance inland, fighting a bloody war of attrition through the hedgerows and fields of the Norman countryside. The advance was a meat grinder, but it was relentless. The roar of the St. La bombardment cast a fiery, hellish glow across the smoke-filled landscape, signaling the breakout from Normandy. Soon, an aerial sweep over the Falaise pocket revealed the devastating result, a swirling cauldron of dust and smoke trapping the remnants of the German 7th Army. The back of the enemy in France was broken. And then, a shift in the light. The harsh, smoky grays of battle gave way to a soft, golden glow. The road to Paris was open. The imagery changes to one of pure joy and liberation. Cheering silhouettes lined the streets, waving flags that had been hidden for long years. The sound of bells, not bombs, filled the air. It was a city reborn, a symbol for the world that the tide had finally, decisively, turned. The long night was over. Today, the beaches of Normandy are serene. The sun rises over a calm sea, a soft mist drifts over the sand where so much was sacrificed. White crosses glow in the warm morning light, standing in silent tribute. In museums, historic artifacts, a soldier's helmet, a worn letter home, a compass that guided a landing craft dressed under spotlights. Quiet witnesses to the storm they endured. The orchestral score, once filled with thunderous tension, becomes a gentle, emotional elegy. As the camera pulls back in a final, quiet aerial shot over the tranquil shoreline, a single glowing ember, a ghost of the fires of war, drifts up into the sky and fades away. Never forget. Thank you for watching.